The Young Girl and the Quest of the Lost Sword. Chapter 1. The Call to Action. The wind howled through the barren landscape, as the young girl stood atop a hill, gazing out at the horizon. Her heart was heavy with the weight of the news she had just received. Her people were in grave danger. A powerful warlord had risen to power and was threatening to conquer their lands, enslaving the people and destroying their way of life. In that moment, a vision flashed before her eyes, a sword, ancient and powerful, glowing in the darkness. She felt a calling in her heart, a sense of purpose that she could not ignore. She knew that she was the only one who could find the lost sword and defeat the warlord, even though she was just a young girl with no experience in battle. She took a deep breath, steeling her resolve. She would not let her people suffer any longer. She would embark on a perilous journey to find the sword, gathering allies and facing countless dangers along the way. She would become the hero that her people needed, even if it meant sacrificing everything she had. With a fierce determination, the young girl set off on her quest, knowing that the fate of her people rested on her shoulders. Chapter 2. The journey begins. As the sun rose on the first day of her journey, the young girl felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. She had never traveled beyond her village before, and the road ahead was long and uncertain. But she knew that she had to keep going, to press on towards her goal no matter what obstacles she faced. With her loyal companion by her side, she began the journey into the unknown. The road was rough and rocky, and the sun beat down mercilessly on her back. She felt the sweat dripping down her face and the blisters forming on her feet, but she refused to give up. Along the way, they encountered various challenges and dangers. They crossed treacherous rivers and climbed steep cliffs. They battled fierce beasts and fought off bandits who sought to steal their supplies. But the young girl did not falter. She was driven by the vision of the sword and the knowledge that her people were counting on her. As the days turned into weeks, the young girl's resolve was tested time and time again. But she found strength in the bonds she formed with her companions, who shared her determination and belief in the cause. They laughed and joked, sang and danced, and supported each other through the toughest of times. And as the journey continued, the young girl realized that she was no longer just fighting for her people, but for a greater purpose, the belief that even a small, seemingly insignificant person could make a difference in the world. She was on a quest not just to find a sword, but to prove to herself and to others that anything was possible with courage, determination, and a little bit of luck. Chapter 3. The First Clue. After weeks of travel, the young girl and her companions finally arrived at the location where they believed the lost sword might be found. The place was a hidden temple, deep within a dense forest, and they had to navigate through a maze of traps and puzzles to reach it. As they entered the temple, they were struck by the eerie silence that filled the air. The only sound was the echo of their footsteps on the stone floor. They walked cautiously, aware of the danger that lurked around every corner. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a clue, a message etched onto the wall in an ancient language. With the help of a map they had found earlier, they deciphered the message, and it led them to a hidden chamber deep within the temple. The chamber was filled with relics and artifacts from long ago. And in the center of the room, there it was, the sword. It was as if it was waiting for them all along. But just as they were about to reach for it, a voice boomed through the room. It was a guardian, a mystical creature that protected the sword from those who sought to misuse its power. The guardian challenged them to prove their worth, to demonstrate that they were worthy of wielding the sword. The young girl stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that this was her moment, her chance to prove herself. She faced the guardian with courage and determination, and they engaged in a fierce battle. It was a battle that lasted for what felt like hours, but in the end, the young girl emerged victorious. With the guardian defeated, the young girl took hold of the sword. It glowed with a bright light, and she felt its power coursing through her veins. She knew that this was just the beginning of her journey, but with the sword by her side, she felt invincible. She had found the first clue, and she was one step closer to saving her people and defeating the evil warlord. Chapter 4. The Rival. As the young girl and her companions journeyed closer to their destination, they encountered a group of travelers who were headed in the same direction. They were led by a young man who seemed to be around the same age as the girl, and he carried himself with confidence and swagger. The young man introduced himself as a warrior on a mission to find the lost sword, just like the girl. She couldn't help but feel a sense of unease around him, and she sensed that he was hiding something. As they traveled together, the young man constantly boasted about his skills and accomplishments. He claimed to have defeated countless enemies and saved numerous villages. The girl and her companions listened politely but were skeptical of his claims. One night, as they rested by the fire, the young man challenged the girl to a duel. He claimed that he was a better warrior than she was and that he would be the one to find the lost sword. The girl accepted the challenge, knowing that she couldn't let her guard down for even a moment. The next day, they faced off in a fierce battle. The young man was skilled, but the girl's determination and resolve gave her the edge. She fought with all her might, and in the end, she emerged victorious. The young man, humbled and defeated, revealed his true intentions. He had been sent by the evil warlord to find the sword and bring it back to him. But after spending time with the girl and her companions, he had a change of heart. He realized that the girl's cause was just and that she was the true hero that their people needed. With a newfound respect for each other, the girl and the young man continued their journey together, united in their quest for the lost sword. Though they remained rivals, they had learned to work together towards a common goal, and they knew that they were stronger together than they could ever be alone. Chapter 5. The Showdown. As the young girl and her companions drew closer to their ultimate goal, the tension in the air grew thicker. They knew that they were getting closer to the lair of the evil warlord, the one who had been terrorizing their people for far too long. Finally, they arrived at the entrance to the warlord's fortress. It was heavily guarded, with armed soldiers patrolling the perimeter. The girl and her companions knew that they had to be smart and strategic if they were going to get past the guards and make their way to the warlord's inner sanctum. With a mixture of cunning and bravery, they were able to infiltrate the fortress and make their way to the inner sanctum. They could hear the warlord's voice booming through the walls, as he barked out orders to his minions. Finally, they reached the inner chamber, where the warlord sat upon his throne. He sneered at them, his eyes glowing with malice and hatred. The girl and her companions stood tall, ready to face their enemy. They knew that this would be the final showdown, the ultimate battle between good and evil. The warlord taunted them, hurling insults and threats. But the girl remained focused, determined to end his reign of terror once and for all. And so, they engaged in a fierce battle, the clash of swords echoing through the chamber. The warlord was skilled and powerful, but the girl and her companions fought with all their might. Finally, with a mighty blow, the girl struck the warlord down. He fell to the ground, defeated and broken. The girl and her companions stood victorious, knowing that they had saved their people from a terrible fate. They retrieved the lost sword, and the girl raised it high above her head, the light of victory shining in her eyes. The people cheered and celebrated, and the girl knew that she had fulfilled her destiny. She had become the hero that her people needed, the one who had brought peace and justice to their land. Chapter 6. The Sword's Power. With the warlord defeated and peace restored to the land, the young girl and her companions returned home with the lost sword in their possession. They were hailed as heroes, and their names were spoken with reverence and admiration. But the girl knew that their journey was far from over. The lost sword was not just a powerful weapon, it was also imbued with a mystical energy that could be harnessed for good or evil. As the girl studied the sword, she began to understand its true power. She could feel the energy coursing through it, like a living thing. She knew that she had to use the sword wisely, or else it could cause great harm. The girl turned to her companions, seeking their advice. They discussed the sword's power and its potential uses. They knew that they had to be careful with it, for the sword's power could corrupt even the strongest of souls. As they deliberated, the girl began to feel a sense of responsibility. She knew that she was the one who had to wield the sword, to use its power to protect her people and bring peace to the land. With a deep breath, the girl grasped the sword's hilt. She could feel the power surging through her, filling her with strength and courage. She knew that this was her destiny, to use the sword's power for good. And so, the girl became the protector of the land, using the lost sword's power to defend her people and maintain peace. She wielded the sword with skill and precision, and her enemies trembled at the sight of her. Years went by, and the girl became known as the greatest hero in the land's history. Her legend lived on, and her name was spoken with reverence and awe for generations to come. The lost sword's power had been harnessed for good, and the land had been forever changed by the girl's bravery and determination.